The development of Islamic social finance has caught attention. Research with our professor, Prof. Norwegia, and Cerita, and also part of school. So we do make it as case studies because these countries are similar in some way. Hello everyone, welcome to UIN Jakarta podcast. And now we have a special guest. We have Miss Kaja. Hello, Miss Kaja. Hello. Good afternoon to you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Such a great pleasure to meet you in our podcast. Okay. And in this podcast, we want to talk about different research, especially about the studies of Norwegian and it's everything, Kaja. But before that, I want to ask you the first question and the best question I think in the podcast. So how are you guys? Thank you so much. I'm very well. Thank you for inviting me to the studio. Is this our first time to go to Indonesia? It's actually my third time to Indonesia. Okay, so it's my first time I'm still visiting fellow here at UIN Jakarta. Oh, Norwegia. So I will all be real happy in Indonesia. And now I am soon completing my 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah. So 2 very busy weeks. Too busy already. So I don't go to any vacation here on like 1 hour or anything. We did have a weekend trip, but I was mainly concentrated on work. And now we will talk about the research with our professor from Norwegia. So I want to see you can you tell us the story about your research, especially with the topic humanitarian and SDGs project? Yeah. So this project called Paramedics, Humanitarians and the Sustainable Development Goals. It's a project that has been running now for almost 4 years. Where I collaborate with the professor Amelia Potziana here at the UIN Jakarta, and also with other researchers in the US in the world. Where we are looking at how it happens when you take global ideas and they are implemented in different global contexts. 4 years, right? Yes, 4 years. So, and then Indonesia is one of the cases in this project. But we have other cases. We have cases in Pakistan, Nigeria, as well as looking at the kind of intergovernmental and wider transnational global network. It was so as a curious, why you choose Indonesia as well, the part of your research. So the reason we wanted to look at Indonesia is because it is, of course, a Muslim majority country with one of the largest Muslim collections in the world. So actually the three cases that we got, Pakistan, Nigeria, and Indonesia are all three very large Muslim populations. And while we're not taking a very kind of strict comparative approach, we want to look at when you take a global warming package like the Sustainable Development Goals that have been agreed upon by so many states at the global levels. What does this mean in the Indonesian context, or the Pakistani context, or the Nigerian context? So we are looking at how massive humanitarian and service development organizations are implementing the SDGs, in which way do they relate to the SDGs, in which way do they incorporate it in their policies, how do they do it if they do? Not because it's not a given that they do. But if you look at previous agendas, global agendas, like for instance, human rights, not everybody agreed to the universal human rights. You have seen skepticism or resistance against the different parts of the world and different groups, and also among some Muslims. So, but it seemed to me that somehow the SDGs are accepted more broadly. And that's one of the reasons that kind of triggered my interest in this. Is like, how come so many people in different places around the world come together and agree upon these things? And what does it mean? It's interesting. I'm serious and starting with the topic you tell about the Muslim context in university. So the next question is, are Muslim militaries organization adopting this SDGs and what that it needs to work? Yeah, so we see that the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, for instance, endorsed the Sustainable Development Goals. And then governments in Indonesia, Pakistan, Nigeria, many other countries that Muslim major populations or big Muslim populations have endorsed it, and that kind of gives a signal as well. But what we do see is that when in Indonesia, for instance, which is one of our case studies, we see that there's been some very active efforts to kind of align these sustainable development goals with Islam. So you see that among Muslim philanthropic organizations like the Basnas, we have an initiative here. So Basnas has played a very important role in kind of making a framework that kind of supports the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals in the Indonesian context. So they have developed this new city on SDGs. She's kind of looking at, are these two frameworks compatible? And they find it to be, So in that sense, there's a lot of efforts that are being done to make the SDGs acceptable, also by Muslim philanthropic organizations and other Islamic development actors. So now I'll ask you, you said before about the Muslim philanthropy, but you was speak about the some countries, Muslim countries, and what the collaboration within the Muslim countries and the corporation to develop philanthropy movement in Indonesia and the world. Yeah, so I think that if you look at aid development assistance, humanitarian assistance, it's kind of a tradition that grew out of post-war Europe as an international system of helping people in need. But clearly that is not the only system that exists, because if you look at the Muslim world, you have had very strong institutions for helping people in need, no? Yeah. So, it's been, I think everywhere in the world, people are helping each other, no? And if you look at the Muslim world, and Muslim context, you look at how zakat is being used, to help your neighbor and, the greater community. And then, now, that has sort of developed into what we could call Islamic aid tradition. So if you look at an Islamic aid tradition and a bit of mainstream Western origin international aid tradition, I think what we see today is that there is more interaction between these two sectors. And this collaboration is taking the shape of, coordination, for instance. Yeah. So, if there is an emergency, there's a need for coordination. But we also see it in terms of an interest in finding ways to work together that is kind of taking the way of doing assistance forward. So here I'm thinking of something specific, and that is that in the Islamic tradition, there has been a lot of change. Yes. So it's, while many people still give their zakat maybe in their village or to somebody that they know, and there's a tendency, a trend now, and we see it very clearly in Indonesia, that Muslims are starting to give their zakat in more organized ways. For instance, to the laws, like a local zakat organization, or to Basnas, or they give to some international organization that is also collecting. Okay, let's talk about your PhD research. In your doctoral research, you'll look at the relationship between Islamic heritage and the ideas about the development, both in Pakistan and diaspora in Oslo. So, what did you find? Can you tell us? Yeah, because this project that I just talked about, the Muslim Humanitarians and the SDG, it's an outlet that builds on my earlier doctoral work. Yeah. So, because for a long time I had an interest in the relationship between religion and development. So, in the sense that how does religion influence or shape the way that we understand, or people understand development, the way organizations work, the way money is raised, or the economic activities that are being done, to help people in need. Yeah. Does religion shape that? Does it affect, what is religion really? It comes with some norms, it comes with some ways of organizing. And also this kind of been my interest for a long time, because I have a background from the development sector where I actually work with the UN and with NGOs in the development field before I went to do my PhD. Yeah. So in my PhD work, what I was interested in is kind of the relationship between people's religious practice and ideas about development. So with religious practice, I mean kind of things that you do because you are, in this case of my study, Muslim, right? So I wanted to understand, when people give their zakat or their sadaqah, where do they give it? Why do they give it? How do they think about what this is for? And what is it that they want to achieve kind of with doing that? So that's the one side of it. It's a very personal giving of something that is part of your religious obligation. Not like it's a very personal obligation. Nobody else can give it for you. You got to give. Yeah? And maybe the right hand should know that a family is doing. So it's a very secret act. Very personal as between you and God. In a sense. No? So I'm interested in that. And then on the other side, I look at the organizations that are receiving this money. To look at what do they do with these things? How is it spent? What kind of ideas about development do they have? And what I mean when I say development, I mean how do they conceive of a good society? What is it that they want to do with the money? So that's what I looked at. So I interviewed 4 different groups of people in Oslo, which is my hometown in Norway. So I interviewed Muslims with a background, similar background from Pakistan, about how the immigrants, so the parents were immigrants. So I interviewed them about how they give, what they give, and why they give these kind of, ranging questions about that. Try to understand this landscape of giving among certain group of Muslims in Oslo. And then I traced the transnational connections between Oslo to Pakistan. And that shows 4 different networks. 4 of them were explicitly religious, 2 of them were more diaspora-based. Yeah? So among the 2 religious networks, one was Sufi, and one was Jawab Islami linked. And I looked at development organizations of these networks in Pakistan and what they did, to development. And I think that one of the things that I found was that is a very personal thing, and the motivations is, it's very difficult to separate. So, and also what I looked at was that how what they do is a very personal thing. So it's both like this religious integration that you gain because you get some kind of religious reward. And it's an investment in your afterlife. Yeah, so it's not for the here and now. But at the same time, they have very strong ideas about wanting to give to organizations that had what they thought were good ideas about development. So they didn't want to just give charity. They wanted to give to something that was helping people to get the right in life. Like they wanted to support education. They wanted to support something that was more sustainable. We know that gender is part of the SDGs issue. And I know that you resist that some of you took the perspective of gender. And my question is, what kind of insight does the gender perspective that you can give to us? So I think when I apply a gender perspective, what I mean is that I try to look at gender roles and relations. So it's not only about counting the women that are there, it's more about trying to understand what are the norms that are shaping ideas about what men and women can do, or the modern study. So what we can identify is that if you look at this in the context of my research, which is often about Muslim philanthropy and the humanitarian development aided throughout in a Muslim context, but it could be, I think, the same in many kind of conservative Christian contexts as well, and other, is that in some of these more conservative environments, the gender roles are very strict, meaning that there is very specific norms that are kind of laying the rules for how what women can do, what men can do. You know, I already see this, for instance, in that women are expected to be doing typical women things that are seen to be typical women, like being in the domestic sphere, basically not working, taking care of the children, making these kind of it's not woman. But and then the men have the opposite, that they're just being the company, they're work providers. No, man, it's not unique to South. But you know, in more conservative settings, you have very strict practices of gender segregation. You know, so that men and women should not mingle unless they are within the same family. And also, which, you know, limits what women can do. So in my study, one of the things that I looked at is that how does women organizations that are in these kind of conservative settings that are having very strong gender ideologies that are promoting the separation of men and women, what kind of work can they do if they're supposed to be nutrition? Yeah? So, because what I found is that these organizations exist. You have women's organizations in these environments, and they are finding ways to work, even within the limits that they have. For instance, by dressing up and getting them out, they are able to go out and provide care assistance. Yeah, so they're kind of, you could say, it's maybe stretching the borders of what has been acceptable within their communities. What do you think about Indonesia, and especially our university UIN Jakarta? Well, I love Indonesia. That's for sure. I think it's my third visit. I don't really want to go back. Oh, yeah. What was your favorite place? Oh, my favorite place is Germany. Cerita. Showing more? Showing more. But so far, my favorite place is UIN Jakarta. This is where I've spent the most time, and I had a really great time. I got such a warm welcome, and I mean, I've been enjoying this really productive time with the Professor Amelia. And we're having lots of plans for new research, so I'm really hoping that this will be back here. And yeah, I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to come here as a visiting fellow at the UIN. Okay, thank you very much for your time. Nice to meet you. I really hope you can learn the research and you're able to practice. Good Lord, thank you. Oh, thank you. Okay, everyone, thank you for joining our podcast in this episode. Don't forget to follow our social media, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and X at the same name at UIN Jakarta Official. And let's take a look all the segment, all the episode in our channel in YouTube UIN Jakarta. See you.